Hello everyone, it's Moise back here. So today is Axie Infinity Origin Season 2 Day 24, and yeah, now we are in the basically the middle of the Mystic era already. So now of course everybody pretty much get one Mystic box. So you can choose one Mystic Charm, so at least Mystic Rune, so at least everyone will have one Mystic Rune to play with. But of course still pretty hard to get to the Mystic like the releases from crafting at the moment, but and also because the minting hasn't really been there yet for the mystic, so that's why I think most people are still only playing with one mystic rune and probably no mystic charm yet. So of course still very early meta in that sense, but of course this season, or at least this era, is only 1 week, so that's why it's gonna be pretty interesting to see who races to the top. And yeah, let's just get into what it's like in the meta now. Of course, quite a lot of it is that people hasn't really played and they just parked up there. So there's those teams there. So actually, the top team, the swirled stuff, now has a gloomy dice, which of course adds to the game plan of putting confused card into the opponent's deck. So this is, I think, a pretty good addition. We'll see how good actually this kind of archetype will be, especially with Holy Prayer, that kind of thing. So let's see. And then, of course, the main one that I actually want to talk about is really the bubble stuff, which we get to see quite a bit. So it's pretty easy to spot because it's Aqua with the sponge, which is the yellow blob at the back, right? So yeah, and then of course with the Heart of the Ocean, this is the Axie that you want to deal a lot of damage and stack a lot of bubble bomb on. So this has been a pretty strong archetype so far, I think, in this early Mystic era meta. And I mean, I definitely got wrecked by this kind of team before. Yeah, just like one shot every single Axie when they have like, I don't know, 9-10 bubble bomb stack in the mid, and then they just fire it off. So pretty fun to play as well, I would assume. It's more like a combo kind of deck where you ramp and then you just get the bubble stacks or bubble bomb stacks and then fire it off basically. So yeah, definitely I'll go more into this kind of team. But before that, let's just see what else is out there. But I think the rest is pretty similar. It's the swirl stuff and then the AoE feather stuff. I think those are the main ones on top at least. Yeah, so but you can see a lot of bubbles, right? Bubbles pretty easy to spot, and yeah, I can see that's why I kind of wanted to make this video, is because you see a lot of bubble stuff coming up. Of course still got the Jinx stuff, but I think yeah, bubble stuff, of course, it's the fun stuff now because it's only enabled by the Heart of Ocean, because without that the damage is going to be pretty low, so you can't really do it. But now with the Heart of Ocean, it's worth basically stacking the bubble bomb and then fire it off, just because you do deal extra damage with this rune for the bubble bombs. So yeah, I think the rest, I think I haven't really seen other new archetypes so far. In terms of at the top, of course, that there are the sustain. Okay, so actually yeah, Chuck is playing that this shield backup, sustain, really just stacking up the back, and then hopefully opponent can't really get through. And then yeah, it's just, even if the opponent can hit into you, you have the Indian Star to do the reflect damage at the end, that kind of thing, of course. So this one is yeah, I have one attack card as well at the end to finish your opponent off, I think. So yeah, pretty strong, of course, with double leaf bug here as well. So maybe if this kind of team gets up there, then yeah, we'll feature it at some point. But for now, of course, like this kind of sustain team will need quite a bit of support. I feel like we will probably need to get into the final era when you have the full set of runes and charms that you can play with, as opposed to now. Now, because the minting hasn't been arrived yet. I mean, it's actually pretty close because it's 3 days, but still. Maybe the meta will actually change quite a bit in the final few days of the Mystic era. Okay, so I'll get into this team, but before that, let's just quickly look at, I mean, this is a similar thing, but I do want to look at this, which is the usage. So now Aqua is basically on top of 20%, on at least the top 1,000, partly because I assume people are playing quite a bit of the bubble stuff or even the Jinx stuff, but also I think Aqua in general is a pretty good front in terms of a tank. So if I just go back here, right, you can see even the Jinx stuff, right, people just play calcium armor just because it's so strong, and then you get calcium armor on top, even though they might not be a bubble build. So that's why Aqua has been seeing quite a lot of uses. I feel like mostly the runes that matters. Of course, except for the Jinx stuff, then it's the charm. But of course, now I think the Jinx stuff hasn't really arrived yet because we couldn't get a lot of the jellyfish stuff yet. But later on, it might, yeah, especially in the final era, we might see a lot more of those. Okay, what else do I want to highlight? So, in terms of, the Axie usage, so we have Aqua, then we have Dawn, and Beast is still up there, and then Bird. So this is kind of what you would assume you actually see quite a lot at the top. And I'm actually surprised that Dusk is actually quite far back. Actually, it's still 10%, so it's not bad, but because a lot of people are still using Moonlight's Thief, it's because I think it's still pretty strong in aggro, where you basically slow down the opponent maybe by 1 turn in terms of their cotton tail, and you can ramp up your cotton tail turn faster, that kind of thing, so you might be able to pick up KOs faster. So I do feel like it has some value, but don't know how it will go in the Mystic era if competing with other Mystic runes, because this one is an epic and it's still pretty strong though, I would say, after the nerf. And then we do have the reptile, probably mostly using prehistoric armor, is because I think this one also gives a lot of value because it really is healing 8 every time it gets hit, so especially against AoE is very good. So that's why because a lot of the aggro on the top is this bird kind of AoE. With the Dawn as well, because usually the Dawn also has the bird cards. Okay, let's look at the runes. So for the runes, in terms of Mystic, people are playing the Heart of Ocean like at the top in terms of the Mystic. And then Gaia, I must say, I haven't really seen that much, but maybe just because sometimes I don't even notice. The Gaia is a very passive effect, but I think ultimately once we get to the Mystic era, it might still be pretty useful. I mean, when we get to the final era, for now, it's just pretty hard to get because, let's say, Gaia is just not an archetype enabling kind of rune, that's what I would say. So that's why it's very different, right? Whereas Heart of the Ocean is really just enabled an entire archetype, and to be honest, if you don't play that archetype, it's not going to be useful. So that's the thing. Even though Heart of Ocean, you can play it 2 ways. One, of course, is the, I would say, combo, like sponge, bubble bomb stuff. But the other way is also just like aggro with bombs as usual. I guess as usual, I mean the previous seasons. So that could also be like an angle, just because especially on the Jinx stuff comes, right? So you just deal a lot of like Jinx, and then you still have the bubble damage, the kind of thing to go with it as well, so that could also work quite well. And then we have the Holy Prayer. Holy Prayer is the epic. I'm trying to find the Holy Prayer, yep. So Holy Prayer is the Mystic, yep. So I'm just, again, not really an archetype enabling thing, but it's similar to Gaia, where it is more like a supportive kind of thing, but still pretty strong. And as Anger, I'm surprised that not many people actually picked it compared to the other two, Gaia and Holy Prayer. Of course, Heart of the Ocean is a different story. And Fair Descent, even though we see a lot of birds, I feel like people are just still not seeing it so far. But maybe people will try to find a way to actually make it work, especially if you can get to the max feather stack a lot more frequently. For example, if you have, actually I don't think it requires many mystic charms or something, right? So but if you have a lot of feather fan, it's just a lot of the charm that gives you this feather, then you get a lot of the feather, what's like a dagger, then that might give you the value. But maybe it's just not as good as the other runes, not too sure. Regenerator, still see a lot of play. I mean, again, a more passive kind of thing, but still see play. Gloomy Dust is the one that I'm not surprised is out down here, is because it really requires a very specific archetype, and those archetypes could be quite expensive as well, so that's why, and also the power level is really not that strong, in the sense that unless you really have a very synergistic deck, of team that goes well with it, like the confused kind of thing. Otherwise, it's not gonna be too useful. And then yeah, trying to find where the rest, and yeah, I'm trying to find the mech one, which I guess it's just not many people playing the mech one. Well, actually, it's still up here. Actually, yeah, it's actually up here. Yeah, so, yeah, because yeah, mech. I'm surprised that it's actually go up here as well, but it is very strong for sustain, so that's why. So it's actually above Feather Descent, which is actually pretty interesting, because I would assume that there's so many people playing birds, this will be a lot further up. But I think Sacred Feather is still better rune, just because it allows you to survive longer, and those kind of yeah, those kind of, I guess, teams requires more about the birds surviving and then dealing extra more damage with the wing horn, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm not surprised that this will actually get played more than the Feather Descent. Or of course, you can play both, just on different bird axes. But okay, right, enough about this. Actually, before I get into the teams, it is going to be quite a long video, this one, but I do want to just quickly look at the charms and the runes. So actually, let me just look at the runes first. Yeah, I haven't really done that previously in the epic era, but I do want to look at how it is like in terms of the market. And of course, now a lot of people are crafting, and so most of these are pretty low in terms of the price. Still, I mean, Last Wish is still pretty high because this is very versatile. You can just put it on any Axie. Like, I'm using it now just because I'm playing 2 plants and I don't have a Gaia, so I have 1 leaf cloak, and then I just put it on just because there's no other better things to do, or no other better runes to put on. Yeah, prehistoric armor, I think is yeah, still very strong, because it just mitigate a lot of damage, and then it also deals quite a bit of damage, because every time it gets hit, it heals for 8, but also because with the every turn you get a spike as well, then you deal 5 to the opponent as well. So, and of course at the end it's basically similar to Last Wish, but sometimes it deals probably even more depending on how many blood spike you have. So that's why I think prehistoric armor is still pretty strong. And then the rest, not much. I'm surprised this actually costs 6. Maybe because 6, actually no. Yeah, I guess because 6 is the base. I don't actually know, because this costs 5. Yeah, I actually kind of forgot how much it costs in terms of the minting. But yeah, I guess 6 is probably like kind of the base at this point. So anything above 6 would be pretty strong. So Moonlight Thief, Leaf Cloak, Calcium Armor, and Prehistoric Armor. Those are the main ones, and Healing Force a bit as well. Okay, so let's look at the charm. And for the charm, Scotch Tape now down to 13, which is still quite a bit, but yeah, I think this is still very useful, and I assume these will all just go down more and more as the season goes on, just because more and more people can craft it and they don't need that many copies of this. Otherwise, a Gecko Mask, yeah, I would say strong is because Taunt, I think Taunt is very good. And then this one, I'm surprised it actually gets quite, I mean, yeah, quite expensive, as in I can understand why. It's because there are a lot of the bird, or just like maybe even triple owl kind of deck where you need this, and this is actually very important in getting the feather. I mean, I personally use this as well. And then yes, yeah, the bubble paste is really the key one, because a lot of people are trying out the new bubble team that I'm gonna talk about later. And yeah, this definitely enables it, right? Because you do need a lot of ways of getting bubble. Yeah, and then yeah, okay, and the aqua stuff as well. Yeah, this is retain is always good. Well, but except I guess for plant, there's really not that much at the moment. But otherwise the rest is pretty similar. Okay, so the retain as well for the yeah, for the reptile, but yeah, it's just plant cards not really seeing much love, I guess. Okay, so let's actually get right into the team that we want to talk about. So it is this team. So it's JesDavG. And to be honest, I could have chosen any other team up here as well. They do pretty similar thing in that sense. mostly at least 2 sponges. Some have 3, like this one, right? And this one I do also wanna look at it, but it's very similar in terms of the runes, right? One defensive rune kind of thing. Actually, no, this is not that defensive, but yeah. So something at the front, and then you have a Moonlight Thief, so that you basically get the ramp. Of course, there are a lot other ramps as well, and then you just get the Heart of Ocean. As long as this survives long enough that then you manage to get the combo off, then that's basically it. Okay, so yeah, because this one is more at the top, so I will actually look into this one. And yeah, so I think what I'll do is just look at the battles and then see how it basically functions. Yeah, let's just look at this one then. Okay, so let me just quickly go through the axes first. So let's look at the front. So very typical. In terms of the gameplay, it's all in terms of game plan, it's all about putting bubbles. So you can see it like bubbles. You want to put it on the Nemo just because you do want to get the Nemo, and then when you play the Nemo, you will get the bubbles. So, and also of course that basically many copies of Nemo, I think at least 5 or sometimes even 6. So you get a lot of ramp. And then, so the key cards are basically Nemo, you get the ramp and the bubbles. Then you get the sponge. Sponge is a must because, okay, I should talk about what sponge does. Is that it's a 3-cost card, so it's very expensive, but of course that's why the ramp matters to get to the point where you can play this, and something else as well, so like you get a bit of value. It is a AoE shield of 60, so it's pretty good against AoE teams. And it says target any ally. To be honest, okay, the target any ally part is for the next effect, which is convert all bubbles on the target into bubble bomb. Okay, so basically what you want to do is to, let's say, stack up bubble bombs on your Heart of Ocean Axie, like as 4 with the ideal number, and then you convert the 4 bubble into 4 bubble bombs. So that's basically the key. And then the rest is more just like kind of the cards are kind of there. Lamb could be pretty useful for, you know, damage. Around that, I think every team kind of taking at least one of it, just so that you can dispel enemy, which can be pretty strong, and of course you can target any enemy as well. So that just means you can, let's say, get rid of a Robin or something. Okay, so for the next one, Throw Star also see quite a bit of play as well. So this is kind of to finish opponent off in a way, but I'm not too sure how useful it is. Of course, I haven't really played this archetype, so I wouldn't know, but it could be very useful. Yep, so this one, instead of using the bubble paste, right, because bubble paste, what it does is that it gives the ally axis. So this one, actually, this gives you this particular charm, energy drink, give you 2 bubble for this particular axie, and this is the axie that you want to stack up the bubbles. So yeah, this is the part where you have to be quite careful how many bubbles you stack. But basically, yes, again, Nemo, double Nemo, in this case, stacking bubbles, and then another sponge as well, and then the rest is really just there. Interesting that this one for the heal, I would assume. And okay, let's talk about Heart of Ocean, right? So it is the Mystic rune where it says when your turn starts, this gains, like this actually gains 1 bubble. So there's already another way of getting bubble, but in this case actually it's not that much, just because you have so many other ways of getting so many other, like so many more bubbles. But the key is bubble bombs detonated by this axie deals 50% bonus damage. Okay, so that is like really strong. This because normally I think it deals 24, and now basically it deals 36 per bomb, right? So imagine you have 10 bombs, that is doing like 360 damage, I think. Yeah, so of course you don't always have to go for the AoE as well. I mean the full clear, right? You don't have to go for the full 10 or 12 stacks, right? You can just do, and even 8 stacks, you do a lot of damage and the opponent's pretty weak, and then you can finish off with Show Star and other things. So that's why Show Star is here, I would assume, so that you can get rid of the key Axie from the opponent. Okay, and then finally this one is more like a defensive kind of in this case not even an aqua, it's a dusk, where you have the cactus just to draw some attacks away from the front. You do have more ways of getting the bubble. So here is yeah, interesting. Yeah, the AoE again, maybe get rid of like summons kind of thing. So this is kind of like a tech for this team, because some teams, right, just runs a 6 Nemo. So this one get another way of getting bubble as well. So but the rest is kind of pretty much dead. This is another ramp as well. Interesting that it hits the targets the mid, because there are not many ways of hitting the mid. So that's why a lot of people, even for my own team, I put my key Axie in the mid. So this allows you to weaken the mid quite a bit, which can be pretty strong. Okay, so let's just quickly look at the opponent's team as well. Dragon 2 still not bad, but of course not like at the very top. So that's why you can see the Axie also not like the most optimized, but still. It's a Jinx team, so Jinx. Yeah, I wish there's like more Jinx here, but okay, like 3 Jinx is already pretty good. And then here's the Jinx. Yeah, wish there's more Jinx, but interestingly, there are a lot of the Gale with the bubble stuff. Not too sure how that synergizes now for the opponent. Now I see it. Yeah, so the opponent, the main thing is that I'm not sure why they don't get, if they have the Heart of Ocean, it might be able to actually compete, in the sense that because it does actually do quite a lot of AoE, even though it is yeah, a bit weak. But yes, you do have a lot of ways of stacking the bubbles on the back, and then doing the sponge, and then dealing a lot of damage with the Orangna as well. Yeah, Jinx as well, so it's kind of like a mixed Jinx with the sponge. But if this is Heart of Ocean, I think this will be actually a pretty strong team as well, even though now it's already pretty strong at Dragon 2. So okay, let's just get into it and see how it goes. Okay, so yeah, just go for the Jinx. And then yeah, I'm just gonna go for like 2 times, so it just makes it faster. Yep, so you can see it hits the mid, and then yep, here's where it like ramps up this, and also getting the bubble to 4 already. But next turn you'll get to, I guess, 5, which will turn into a bubble bomb, I would believe. Okay, so yep, opponent just going with the Jinx stuff as well. So yeah, it's not easy for this team, because there's not that much of a card draw. So yeah, you just have to get to this. Yep, just at this point, right, you just have to go for the ramp first, and then see how. Okay, so opponent, yep. Interesting. That is the tech, right, to get rid of the bubbles. So now there's only 1, but like basically getting rid of 4 bubbles already from here, which I think is a pretty strong, because otherwise opponent would have played sponge on this. Now it actually slows down the opponent. Oh, it still manages to actually get into the situation where it can get into 4 bubbles. So wow, that's why this team very consistent. And you can see the mid is still very healthy, unfortunately for the opponent. Yeah, pretty hard to get through, and of course like bubble bomb is like cannot be dispelled as well, so that's another thing. Okay, so 2, 4 again, and then probably go for the sponge. 9 already. So it's really not a lot of ways in which a Jinx team can deal with it. You just have to hope that they really draw pretty badly. But there are quite a lot of these retain card as well, so that's why it's gonna be not so easy. But still, you can see, right, opponent hasn't really taken much damage at this point, just because it is the kind of team. Okay, oh, you can see the AoE, right? So it's just gone, and then yeah, so opponent just concede. So this is how you see like that turn where you can just basically KO the opponent in 1 hit with like about 200, 300 AoE damage, while of course doing your defensive stuff and ramping as well. Yeah, so that is basically how this team goes. And then okay, let's just see another game. Okay, I'll pause it here, and do want to look at opponent's team, because it's very interesting. You can see it's basically a triple Orangna, which really hurts the bubble team, I would assume. And also I think Garish Worm, is it like 2 of those as well to get rid of the retain card. So because I think the sponge has retain, right? Is it like, so you can actually get rid of those as well. And then Jinx, yeah, it's pretty aggressive as well. It's just a lot of attack cards with a lot of Jinx, with also like Neo as well. I think it's also very strong, so that you can actually get rid of the opponent's key card in the draw pile. And then similarly, this is pretty much the same thing, except I guess another Jinx as opposed to a Garish Worm, so you don't really need that many. Yep, so and then yeah, there's so many ways of playing Jinx, and then getting rid of opponent's card as well. So yeah, let's just see how this one goes. Yeah, let's just play it 2 times. Yep, so the key is really just to put a lot of Jinx, and then I think we'll see how Orenda actually kind of counter this team. Interesting to not go for the okay, yeah, we want to go for the Nemo. Already have 1 stack. Okay, so the key is to really have to get the bubbles and to convert them into bubble bomb at the same turn. But of course, now it's all about ramping. So the cactus actually is pretty good with the yeah, so keeping the cactus for this turn I think is pretty smart. Yep, just shielding as well, getting 3 so that like the cactus basically stops the opponent from dispelling the bubble, and now you already see that it's at 4 like energy, so they already got an energy burst. And Orenda not useful here because of the taunt, so that's why that taunt is very important. Now you have 4 bubbles, but unfortunately, yeah, very unfortunate to not have the yeah, the sponge. I think I got the Garage Worm kind of got rid of the sponge, so that's another attack against it, and yeah, kind of forced to use the bubbles. And at this point, yeah, this can't really go with the gameplay of the bubble bomb stuff because it was the bubble was used already, and then you have to slowly kind of get back again because it was only I think 2 stacks, right? And yeah, it's just a very good matchup for the opponent, even though opponent still not doing the best because in terms of the Axie count, right, is 2 against 3 at the moment now. But the Garage Worm really like hurts the opponent. I mean hurts JesDavG is in that sense because yeah, you just oh, and also I would assume, right, that I didn't really look at what it got discarded, but usually the Neo probably was used to discard this sponge. Only 2 sponges in this, so that's why if you just manage to get rid of the sponge every time, then it's gonna be tough. And now you can see so many Jinx in the deck. It's gonna be pretty rough because there's no card draw, and once you don't get to the game plan of the bubble, then it is gonna be quite tough. So it's really like a hard counter, yeah. So you can see forced to use it because like opponent still has a Garage Worm at the in the hand, but you can see opponent's still getting pretty low because it's still doing attack, and so that's why bubble bomb you don't always have to go with that game plan. Okay, yeah, so that one was kind of like a wrong read in that sense because there's no card to discard. But now this is where it hurts, is the Jinx is always coming in now, and the Jinx is doing a lot of damage to the back. You can see, right? Stacking a lot already. The Jinx is basically just deal what 40-50 damage per Jinx card now. And yeah, now there's really no way, I think, as long as the opponent survives his turn, and of course the Calcium Armor allows the opponent to actually survive with basically another 49 health in a way, because now at 5 energy you can potentially do quite a lot of damage, but of course sponge doesn't really do much at this point. You can only shield, probably do that, but then it's still pretty close, but then the Jinx is gonna do quite a lot of damage. And I feel like that should have been enough damage for a KO. Actually no, so missing actually 1, but the Jinx should do the job as long as the opponent survives. But just gave up at this point. Interesting, because actually they're not really a KO yet, still survive 1 HP, but the I guess there's no draw in which they can finish the opponent off. Okay, so in a way it was still a pretty close game, even though didn't really go with the bubble game plan. But yeah, you can see that it really requires like a hard counter in this case to actually counter this kind of team. Okay, so hope you enjoyed this video and gained some insight into how this kind of bubble team could work. And so maybe you'll give it a try. So let me know if you actually want to try this out and just do massive 300 plus damage to the opponent AoE in a single turn with the Heart of Ocean bubble bomb stuff. Okay, so this is it for this video. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.